right. Thanks everyone for joining another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross Project Council meeting. Today is what is today? The 6th of what month is it? June 2023. Let's see, where are my notes now? Bouncing around. Do we getting into things, do we have any announcements? Anyone?
I will just
we have
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just saying, immediately following this meeting, we have a security collab space meeting. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to pop on in. The information's on our calendar, calendar.openjsf.org.
And then I was going to add that we have registration open for Open Source Summit in Europe. So registration will be open. The event is September 19th through 21st. Hope to see you all there. We're doing OpenJS World again and also a collaborator summit. So more details to come on those, but registration is open. But the call for proposals is closed. But we will be doing a collaborator summit. So we'll provide more details at a later date.
Great. Thank you. I know we're going to look at slides in the private session later, but do we have any board updates or anything to highlight here?
Hi, Mateo. No, because we did a face-to-face in Vancouver. So our next one is going back to the regular scheduled third Friday of the month. So that's coming up a week from Friday.
Okay, great.
Having said that, there is probably something that I would like to bring up in the private session. So if you can stick around, whatever.
Yeah, we should try to hustle through the agenda. We have a few things we want to talk about. So I will try my best to keep things moving along. And with that, I will jump into the agenda unless anybody has anything else. The first item is check, validate, and update example links in Project Charter, issue 1069. This is by Ben Hutton. I thought that's, oh yeah, so Toby's got a pull request open that I think addresses this. So once, yeah, and it even closes it. So, and there's some commentary on here. So I don't know if folks, if anybody's familiar with this. See, Jordan, you're in the conversation. Okay, I see Toby's last comment yesterday, fixing some potholes first and then potholes ahead signpost personally. So I don't know, I say just maybe people take a look at this if they want. We'll keep moving things forward and then see if that fully resolves the issues that Ben was raising. And if not, then we'll continue on. Cool. Anything else on that one? Anyone? If not, I'll jump to the next one, which is 1059. Another issue from Ben. Requirements for projects ingesting other existing external projects. This has been talked about a little bit. Toby closed it.
And I think my action is to check with Andy Updegrove on that. So have not gotten that down the list yet.
Okay. Okay, great.
But I will find out.
Excellent. Thank you, Robin. Next on the agenda is simplify CPC board representation. I'm assuming this still needs to be discussed as well.
I think if I remember from last time, like basically there's a link to the proposed board changes. Toby confirmed last time that it's ready for board review. So really the next step is for the board to review, discuss, and either say yes or something else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and since it's a bylaw change, we often have to take that to member legal counsel. So we'll find out as well.
Great.
Is the next step taking it to legal counsel, or do we take it to the board and they might tell us to take it to legal counsel, or we might tell us?
Oh, you're on mute, Robin. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I would say that we should just get it on the member legal counsel. I know Ben's been working on scheduling that just because I know the lawyers will care about representation, and balance. So.
Great.
So on that topic, something that emerged during the board meeting is that the mechanism that Toby has designed for equal representation might be the key point of discussion, okay, on how that thing is implemented. So it's probably important to note that the sentiment was that there's a lot of complexity over there, that it's good to simplify, but that specific part of representation is likely not going to be enough for the members. So I'm just mentioning it. It's essentially to the critical point of all members express the foundation members express all board members -1 is probably not enough in terms of representation, but that's
Yeah.
it's probably
And
sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, and because we're member supported, there's that fiscal responsibility that the board members have so that's the key part.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, it's a starting point and see what people's thoughts are and go from there. Great. Next item is open up community board seat, which is also related to the issue we were just talking about.
Just on that one, I did want to ask, like, Matteo, is that some feedback that can be added to the issues to start the conversation, or is it gonna be?
I don't think I don't think
okay.
there is any.
Okay.
It's more to keep everybody up to date. I can post a comment, but there is no actionable feedback on the topic. It's next step is going through the member legal counsel, which will produce a more actionable feedback to discuss on.
But I guess you were just raising the heads up that there might be some concerns.
Yes, essentially. Well, it's I presume it will be okay, but I presume it will be. On the other hand, Robin, I think we approved the additional seat or something anyway.
The third seat,
Yes.
the community seat. Yeah, I mean that. Well, and then we do still have to make that bylaw change because it's technically defined as an individual member, which we don't have. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's good news too, but I imagine, take a look at it all and then see how things shake out and then make adjustments. Sounds good. Additionally, should we have a co-chair issue is related. I see. I see. Is that your comment, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we didn't even change our governance. We just said, let's elect the co-chair and have them act versus making it a formal part of the governance. So I just threw that in there to say, like, if we got somebody who wants to volunteer and we want to vote them in and have them be the official backup to you, we could just do it without waiting, because I can imagine that, legal review and other things may take a while.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I'd be happy to have someone helping and being involved. So maybe we should consider what that would look like. And maybe even just open it up and move forward with it. So folks want to take a look at that, and any comments and see what it'll look like. We can start to look at that. Cool. The next item here is update contributor covenant code of conduct to V2.1. I don't know if I know, Robin, you had worked on the document a little bit last week. I don't know if there's been any movement forward. I'll add that, I've been having some conversations with folks around this stalled work here. And part of the stall is building some tooling to patch code of conduct updates with our kind of amendments. And I think that there's some level of agreement that maybe the tooling is a bit overkill. I've talked to Yagiz about it. He and I are both fine with abandoning the tooling. If the COC the upstream doesn't change very much, then maybe it is just too much. And then what we end up having to deal with is a diff of a patch, which kind of gets goofy. I know Toby's really busy right now, but he was going to look at just like figuring out what's the easy path forward on moving all of this stuff forward without the tooling. So that's kind of a bit of an update on that whole general thing there, because we do want to get this sorted out ASAP. And so hopefully within the next week or two, between Toby and myself and anyone else who wants to help, we can just try to get this cleared up, sorted and landed as easily and simply as possible, and then kind of move forward from there. So hopefully more news on that soon. Next issue is license check support and tooling, issue 815. I'm assuming there's no update on this one. I'm not sure.
No, and we should, I think we've just been so buried with some of the sovereign tech fund stuff, but now that we're working with the IT group that has that check, we can, see about implementing that. So.
Okay, great. And then the next one is issue 786, which is kind of related to the stuff I was talking about before. I think the assumption is that once we get some of those other things landed and sorted, we're going to double back to this issue and make sure that we've addressed the discussions points in that issue. And then the last one on the agenda is Canadians. What am I looking at here? Oh, sorry, distracted by a comment. The last one is balancing privacy versus transparency for the travel fund. This is actually an old issue, but has come back up based on some conversations we've been having lately. Toby and Claudio have talked a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. For folks who are unaware, we do the travel fund and community fund stuff in public, through GitHub issues and all that tracking, which is something we've done in the Node project for a long time. But there's been some, discussion lately about some, I think, good reasons why some people might not even use it because it's so public, and other sort of privacy related matters. So I think we're trying to figure out how, if there's a better way to manage this. So if anybody has any thoughts, please jump into the issue and speak up.
Is the
I think we
concern
spoke
here,
about this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is the concern here like people are gonna be doxing their locations essentially when they book travel, and that's a concern for their privacy and safety?
That's one of them, yes.
Okay.
Jordan?
You know
So-
what? Oh, sorry. I noticed the recent conversation and I was wondering why it's important for people to do it before they travel and why can't it happen after they travel? Is it because the fear is that we won't approve it and then they paid for travel and
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like something we could try to see how well it works is after the event, after the travel is completed, everything is public. And by default, everything would be public as it is currently. However, we explicitly call out if you have any hesitation about sharing this stuff publicly before the travel is completed, then email here. And then at that point, we can put some sort of placeholder without any identifying information in the table before the event. We can do the standard process that way. And then just somebody updates all the private ones after the event. And that way we have the same budgetary information and the same eventual public, but like we've given somebody an out. And if it turns out that a lot of people are availing themselves of the private one, or if somebody's saying, I still don't want to ask for a special exception or whatever, then I think it's worth reevaluating if we have public by default before the event. But it seems like that would be an iterative approach to determine how far we need to go. And that still allows for the folks who do have those concerns to be able to take advantage of the travel fund.
Yeah, so essentially completely anonymizing the personally identifiable information
On request.
Yeah,
I-
until after. I think that's
From
a great-
Until
my-
after.
this is a very simple intermediate step. We can implement it right now. However, that being said, I think that information should be private. Should be private to this group, okay, and not publicly available on the internet to begin with.
You
Considering
mean overall? You're saying
overall, like it should be available for all. It should be available to all people that are part of the foundation. Okay, this is not. It's to be honest, it's I think it should be reviewable by people. It's as part of our principle, but it should not be publicly available on the internet. Okay, for randos to look at.
Our scholarship fund is private amongst the team. Yeah.
Yeah, I would essentially keep it private. I changed my mind on this. Okay, so I changed my point of view, and from what I know now, it's not. In this case, the situation is I think it should be private. This is my 2 cents, and not private in the sense of super private, but more on fund members only.
So you mean
type.
like regular members, CPC members, or just where's your line?
Members of the foundation in the sense of project members, all individuals, and which is an enormous high amount of people, to be honest. Okay, and at least and on top
So
of
it sounds like we could do regular members, since that's anyone in the group you're talking about can opt in to being in regular members. So it is potentially as large as the large group, but it's only opt in. So it's like artificially smaller, but with no barrier. So that seems like a fine line as well.
Yeah.
If other folks agree with Matteo's thought there, right?
I think this is something that I think it's doable very quickly as well. And just limit the visibility. Okay. It's just limiting the visibility of possibly rename that repo and then create a new empty one just with the process. Okay. So kind of splitting where we put the process to where we put the data. And
are you saying that everything about the request should be private and not just the personally identifiable information?
I am saying, well, it's not saying it's private. It's still yes, it should be private, but it's private by the people. It's not private.
Should be internal.
It's internal. It's not private. Okay. It's not available for randos. Okay. This is the essentially, I would say is versus making it public to the group seems a very basic step to ensure things are still checked, but not that public to begin with. I don't know.
That makes sense. I'm +1 on
that. And on top of that, what was said before, of somebody really want to keep those details private, they should be able to send the paperwork privately.
I would think that the emails would go to perhaps Ben, whoever's our
sure
person. So if someone wants
I mean, as long as whoever receives them is able to then redirect them to the group we decide, then
I think it should go to the CPC members, to be honest. It should not go including plus Ben, but it should be to go to the CPC, because that CPC is the one that needs to approve it anyway. So
that's true. And beyond the CPC, nobody needs to know about rejected. Not that we've rejected a fund request, but the only documentation benefit is for things that are approved, really.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns that we think someone might have with the CPC knowing all of the information right now, at the outset? I'm just trying to think of.
I mean, the title of this issue is balancing these things, right? We have to pick a trade-off point, and at some point, if somebody is that paranoid about their travel, then unfortunately, they may just not be able to travel, and it's just a question of where is that point that is as inclusive as possible. And it feels like the CPC is a pretty small, known, trustworthy group. And I think that if somebody actually still has a problem with that, then they would need to pick somebody they trust to reach out to and express that concern, who could then anonymously present that concern to the group where we can evaluate it. But like, I don't think we need to, like, that's why I was suggesting an iterative step, right? Is like, we should address the problems we know about and the ones that seem obvious, but we shouldn't necessarily try and like account for unknown unknowns. And that to me seems pretty unlikely, but like, you know, can't rule anything out. But it's like, I think we wait until it's a problem.
No, that all sounds good. That sounds good. If someone would take a moment and just kind of summarize this in the issue, that would be great. And then maybe somebody can pick it up and forward.
Can you drop the link in the Zoom chat and I'll do that while we're talking?
I think I have most of it, but if you can add in,
okay.
LJ, like, what is the actual concrete next step? That you
Yeah,
propose?
sure. You got it.
To add complexity, but I wonder if this is also an maybe this is a separate issue, but I wonder if this is also an opportunity to allow people to ask. Like I saw this recent issue where the person asked for funding and was almost denied because it was after the event. And I wonder if it's an opportunity to loosen up on that rule a little bit. I know people ultimately run the risk of not getting refunded, but if that's the only reason that they wouldn't get reimbursed is because it was after the event, then I wonder if we wouldn't mind. I wonder if that is a hard line that we want to draw.
I like that
Yeah,
too.
this person invited to speak by us kind of late, so, yeah.
But like in general, I think we should make it clear that like the way TC39 does it for proposals is that if you fail to announce more than 10 days or less, like if it's, unless you've told everyone 10 days before the meeting that you're going to seek advancement, somebody is allowed to say, nope, I didn't have enough time to review it. However, like, you can still put one on 2 minutes before the meeting and people might be okay with that. And so similarly here, we could just say, you know, if it's after the date of travel, the budget may be fixed and we may say no. And so that's a risk you're taking, but of course we still can approve it after that. Right? Like,
the reason why we ask it before this, it's so that you can ask how much money you need, do your travel, book your travel, and then get reimbursed. Okay, we don't want to put people in the position of, oh, I thought I will be getting reimbursed and I am not, and now I'm 2,000 to be repaid on my credit card. Okay.
Mhm.
And that is a situation where we totally don't want to be at. So as long as this is clear in the language,
yes.
okay, that it's the funds are guaranteed only if done beforehand and everything could be denied afterwards. I have no big deal for me in relaxing that, but it's the fundamental problem is, would you be out a few K without knowing if you will need reimbursement, will be reimbursed or not? It's a question of personal choices, to be honest. But yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think we serve things better from it being, if it looking from the outside, like the answer is no, because we want to make it 100% clear that you may not get reimbursed if you don't do it in advance. And I think that will be the strongest incentive to people to actually doing it in advance. In the case like this, us making an exception and saying, yeah, okay, no, we're going to do it, that's fine. But I think if we actually make that sound like it's too easy, we're going to do some people some disservice, right? Because some people may read things and assume, oh yeah, I'll just do it afterwards. And I think that's a recipe for bad things to happen versus us saying clear in the documentation, you've got to do it ahead of time. And then being like we are, taking it case by case afterwards and doing the right thing is the least likely to run us into issues.
Are flexible on the 2 weeks, but be firm on the before.
Yeah. And then we can just have something too for, you know, questions or concerns, email this. And then if somebody does want to do it, you know, whatever, they can ask about it.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Excellent. I'm glad we talked about that. So there's nothing else on the official agenda, but I'm noticing at the bottom, present package JSON standardization, issue 1082. Do we want to talk about this? Ethan, do you have updates? Is this something we want to discuss here?
I didn't, yeah, I can share some updates, but we are not ready to like present the document yet, so to speak. We created a new channel in the Slack, and we're gonna still be iterating on like kind of what the work needs to be done there. I think a better way to frame this is going back, like I went back into our videos from the Collab Summit and found what kind of sparked it. And I think like the next week's working session, there was like, are there any initiatives or agenda items that we should be using a working session to further progress on? The sort of like chain of events was like, it started with the next 10 session, and then there was a ticket created on one of those boards that was like, it was like I think I wrote it. Yeah, right. Blame Darcy. I think I wrote it down. It was like listed as one of the major concerns for Node.js's success. It was an obstacle or barrier for Node.js's future success. And it was, quote, NPM or lack of standardization specification of package JSON. So I think going back to that, and rather than being like, let's go standardize package JSON, and instead being like, okay, why is this ticket one of the highest rated obstacles or barriers for Node.js's future success, and digging into that, whether it be at the next 10 meeting tomorrow or next week at a working session, where we can get everyone's minds together on it. I think that's going to be the next best step. What does other people think about that?
And when you say the next working meeting, that is of the package maintenance team or a different group?
At this point, it could be any group, CPC or otherwise. I noticed there's this section here, next week's working session, and there's a question, are there any initiatives or agenda items that we should use a working session to further progress on? Maybe this. So that's an option.
And Ethan, didn't you hear from the standards working group that to define the problem in your proposal and then get, kind of get it blessed from the CPC so OpenJS can endorse the initiative?
Yeah, and there's a part of that which is like, we might be going a step back from there, where we may not actually go forward with the original plan of like, let's standardize package JSON. Let's get endorsement from OpenJS. Let's go get stakeholder buy-in. We can like walk all the way back and just say, what actually are we solving? And what are some other ways we can solve it? And I think that is the kind of
Ethan, when you mean standardizing, you mean, is there a standard body where you want to bring these to? Or is there it can be almost anything, like there are infinite amount of those. So
I almost want to say, let's scrap the word standard. And I would really like to, like I said, let's go back to like the next 10 group and let's go look at this.
So if I understand correctly, you want an official specification of a certain number of fields of the package JSON to be defined somewhere.
Potentially, yes, that is a solution, or that is a way that we could potentially solve a problem that I think we still need to work to define better.
No, yeah, but I mean, yeah, I understand. When you mean standard, typically there is essentially a standardization effort from people. Okay, so yeah.
What problem is trying to be solved? Just for some backstory, I'm interested in this.
Yeah, so there's a lot to this, which is why I think maybe having a whole working session or another place to discuss it would be valuable. But high level, the reasoning that I came up with stems a lot from interoperability and the advancements of runtimes and other package managers in the recent like year or so. We now have Bun doing its own things and building on top of what NPM has laid out. We have PNPM introducing pretty innovative solutions to the package management world that NPM sort of, I would say, slept on for a little bit too long. And like they are catching up and they are doing a good job integrating things and being ready for workspaces and monorepos. But there's just all these little things in play where it's no longer just NPM and Node. And as someone who spends a lot of time on the Winter CG world and hearing all of these different JavaScript environments talk about things, there seems to be some kind of a need there. And I think Darcy had some thoughts if he was willing to share on call. Otherwise, folks, there is a channel and I've typed a lot of this up already if folks want to read it post this meeting.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Thanks.
And so I want to wrap this up. We got 20 minutes left and we had a few things we wanted to talk about in private session. But if we want to use the next week's working session, that sounds good to me. If folks are on board with that, I'll make the updates to have things reflected as such, and we can keep the conversation going there.
Perfect. Yeah, let me know what I need to do to help organize or write things down, get people existing information, invite people, etc.
Yeah, I would suggest folks join the package JSON discussion Slack channel. And then we'll plan on doing it next week. The working sessions are always at the same time as the previous week's official meeting. So it'll be 12 noon Eastern time next week on the working session. Hopefully you're available, Ethan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And others, great. Yeah, so if you want to, share links or any information in that Slack channel, just to let folks know, here's the stuff we'll talk about, and here's how you can get yourself informed, then that would be great. And we can do it next week.
Cool. And my one last question there is I was planning on attending the Next 10 call tomorrow morning to talk about this as well, because this is where it all started from. Do we want to, I mean, with Michael on the call, is that still valuable? Should I just wait until next week since we're going to have that working session? Should I still attend Next 10 call tomorrow? Is there work to be done there maybe to assist this?
I'm thinking off the top of my head. I'm not sure whether we've gotten the I guess I'd say off the top of my head, maybe it makes sense if you're going to do it in the CPC working session, just to do that and then move forward from there.
Okay, cool.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and the CPC working session is in the calendar, and the Zoom is in the calendar as well, calendar.openjsf.org, so folks can get to that easily. Great. All right, so let's call it a wrap. We know now what we're going to do next week too, so I'll update this stuff here, and we can end the live stream and get into the other things that we need to talk about. Cool. No objections. I will stop this live stream.